Welcome to the notes snippet for topic 6.1, Rationales for Imperialism. This topic addresses the rationales for imperialism and describes state expansion, as well as the indigenous population's response to it, in the period 1750 to 1900. Imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power and influence through diplomacy or military force. Social Darwinism is the belief that principles of natural selection and survival of the fittest can be applied to human societies, often used to justify inequality and exploitation in the context of imperialism and colonialism. White man's burden is a phrase used to describe the belief that Europeans had a moral duty or responsibility to civilize and govern non-white people during the era of imperialism, often with a paternalistic and condescending attitude. Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection was used by some Europeans to justify the subjugation of people they believed to be inferior, a concept known as social Darwinism. David Livingstone, a Scottish explorer and missionary, played a significant role in European imperialism in Africa as he explored and mapped uncharted territories, which fueled European interest in Africa and led to increased colonization and exploitation of the continent by European powers. Hiram Maxim, an American-born inventor, invented the Maxim machine gun, which provided a technological advantage to imperial powers. Imperialism was primarily driven by the pursuit of resources available in foreign lands. Proponents justified European colonization using a variety of explanations, from a belief in nationalism, a desire for economic wealth, a sense of religious duty, and a belief that they were biologically superior. These various motives for establishing overseas empires, also known as imperialism, would lead to conflicts in Asia and a scramble to colonize Africa. Nationalist motives contributed to the expansion of European territories and influence. Having lost its American colonies, Britain sought new lands for settlement and extended its influence in South Asia, especially India. In the wake of its defeat by Prussia, France expanded its overseas territories, especially in northern and western Africa and Southeast Asia. Italy, like Germany, was newly unified in the 1860s and 70s, and sought colonies for economic, strategic, and nationalist reasons. Spain, once a leader in imperialism, had diminished power by the 19th century, though they still maintained overseas territories. Japan also asserted its nationalist pride through conflicts with China, causing the Sino-Japanese War, which resulted in Japan's control of Korea and Taiwan. The transformation of European economies during the Industrial Revolution led to a heightened interest in colonies as sources for raw materials and markets for manufactured goods, prompting imperial powers to expand their territories. As competition for the most promising resources, markets, and trade intensified, imperial powers aimed for access to low-wage labor, control of natural resources, and entry into new markets. In a quest to increase profits, companies chartered by the British, French, and Dutch governments entered into commercial treaties with local rulers in India, East Africa, and the East Indies. These treaties granted the Europeans the authority to build trading posts and forts as a means of safeguarding their interests. Initially established for the spice trade, many of these companies wielded quasi-governmental powers, amassing armies and conquering territories to establish colonies. The European perspective towards other cultures was often rooted in racism, as colonial powers viewed themselves as inherently superior to those they oppressed. The use of scientific theories served to reinforce their supposed superiority and legitimize their colonization of foreign lands. Colonial powers believed that their technological advancement gave them the right to impose their cultural practices on indigenous societies. To streamline administration, colonies merged people from various cultures with distinct languages and customs into one entity. The colonizers enforced their language, which played a crucial role in unifying these diverse colonies. Additionally, they introduced political, educational, and religious institutions, and their influence extended to architecture and leisure activities. Missionaries were sometimes criticized for supporting imperialism by convincing people to abandon their traditional beliefs like ancestor veneration, in favor of Christianity, which was the dominant religion among Europeans. This religious conversion was seen as a means to facilitate economic interests. To counter this criticism, missionaries highlighted their efforts to combine religious and humanitarian work, such as establishing schools that taught both religious and secular subjects to prepare students for professional careers as teachers, lawyers, and other professionals. They also provided better medical care and medicines, and some even worked towards ending the illegal slave trade in sub-Saharan Africa. I hope this snippet was useful. Visit mrb.world for more resources.